hopefully you enjoyed that as much as I did. So it is celebration season. Why is it celebration season? For me, it's celebration season because June is the month that I was born. Um, and it is graduation time. So you may have had a graduation recently, be looking forward to or planning for your graduation from high school. And if you've had your graduation already, like everything's different now. School's over. And there is a young adult in your house who may have um, or may be expressing that they're an adult now, or they're grown now. And so that is a whole thing in and of itself, which we'll talk a little bit about today. But everything's different. In high school, usually the goal or the focus is to get into college. And likely, if you're watching, you have gotten into college. Your child has gotten into college, and now, um, now what? What do you do? How does your role change? How does your relationship change? What happens um, when the university is telling you that, if you've I know in June in my university, we're inviting families and students to come to prepare for the fall semester. And so you may have had or maybe going to your university, and they may be telling you that, your child is an adult now and they'll be treated as such. But your child, they're not adult for the most part. They're not an adult in the way they think, the way they behave, their needs, all of that. And so what can you do? What should you do from now until the fall semester, August or September, whenever your child starts college? What can you do? What should you do so that they can be better prepared, be more successful, achieve their goals, and to, graduate on time, on purpose, with a plan for what they're going to do after they graduate. So that's what we're here to talk about today. It is the College Prep Next Steps Challenge. My name is Phoenix. For those of you who don't know me, I am known online as the College Success Professor, and my goal is to support students and their families in learning all of those things that they don't teach in high school, that they don't teach anywhere else, about what it really takes to be successful and to graduate from college. Because sure you've heard, I'm sure you know from friends or from family, not everybody gets through. Not everybody gets through in 4 years. Not everyone graduates from college and has the outcomes or the jobs or the life that they want after that experience. And so that's one of my missions, one of my passions in life. I know not only work in higher ed professionally as my full-time occupation, but my business also works with college students and their families in a variety of different roles. So we'll maybe get into that a little bit later, but let's get into why you're probably here, which is learning those things that you can do as a parent as your child is getting ready to go off to college. So I am not going to share slides today. I do have slides, but I'm not going to share them today. I just want to talk face to face. So as we are thinking about our children, reflecting on, actually I attended a graduation for, not a graduation because it's just it's a closing ceremony because he didn't graduate. And I was thinking like how the transition from middle school to high school and the transition from high school to college probably brings up some similar emotions. The principal did a little speech and she was like, I'm sure you remember when you brought them to elementary school and, all those things. So even for those of you now, like, you still see, you maybe still, like I do, you still see your child as a baby. but you're even closer to them being an adult or emerging adult than I am. And they're going to be actually leaving in a matter of weeks, based off of when our university, the university where I work, will begin. I counted 10 weeks. 10 weeks if you include the time that they move in, and then classes start the following week. 10 weeks from now until they're gone. So that may bring up some emotions, some feelings. Time is moving quickly, time is running out. Are they ready? Are they prepared? Are they going to be okay? These are maybe thoughts and feelings that are coming through your mind. What can I do? What should I do? Like, all of these things are going through your brain. And so my goal here is to kind of ease some of those concerns, give you some actual practical things that you can do, should do, might want to try, so that when they leave, you'll feel more at ease. They'll feel more at ease. You'll feel, like they're set for, at least that transitional period, because you don't really know. You don't really know whether their transition or how their transition is going, in part because they don't always share with you their challenges. When they leave, they may not always share with you. So you may not even know until midterm or until the end of the semester. But you can do certain things as a parent in order to set them up for success, because as their parent, you've been with them likely for 18 years at least, and you know them. And you know what their needs are. May know what their fears are, what their concerns are, what their experiences have been. And so what we can do as parents is to, based off of past experiences, based off of lessons learned, based off of who we know they are, do our best to prepare them for what to expect and what to do if they find themselves in challenging situations or with a difficult transition for a number of reasons. So that's what we're going to focus on today. And that is what I hope to answer any questions that you may have about specifically your child and your situation. So let's get into it. So one of the things that is also a common concern or common question that parents may have is that, and this is one of the things that we do at my university is it's not orientation. Orientation happens closer to the beginning of school. What we do and what some schools do, we've been doing things all throughout the year. We did like a Accepted Students Day, and in June, this month, we're doing an opportunity for parents and students to come to campus to register, to get some more information about how to be prepared. And so one of the questions that parents, or one parent, and maybe probably more than one parent, had is that there is a kind of lack of knowledge, and whether you're a parent of this is your first child going off to college and you never went to college, or you did go to college, but it was so long ago and things have changed so much, or the higher ed system itself, maybe you went to a different type of school. Like, there's a lot of hidden factors, hidden processes, there's a bunch of things that you don't necessarily know about what to do, how to do it, how to navigate, how to solve problems, things like that. And so when you don't know what you don't know, for lack of a word, you don't know what questions to ask, you don't know how to solve problems, you don't know how to help, how to support your child. In the past, you likely have always been a place that your child can go to for answers to questions, for advice and things like that. And when you're not as confident about how things work, or what systems and processes are at the college level, it can be a cause of concern. And so that's why I'm here. However, your university will have specific details about how their institution works. But in general, the how, the knowledge of college and how it works and how processes works and what's important and what to focus on and all those things are things that I can offer you, and I hope to offer you via direct answers to your questions, and also via the information that I'm going to be sharing in this 3-day challenge. I think I wanted to share that part. So how this is going to work, it's a 3-day challenge. However, the challenge will not run back to back. There will be actually 3 weeks. So every week at this time, we will be coming together and I will share a bit more information. I'll pull back the curtain a bit more each time about what you can be doing now. So there'll be homework assignments or things for you to do or reflect on or try and implement. And then we'll come back the following week and there'll be more things to do and try and implement. And the goal is at the end, you'll have some things, some strategies, some practical things that you can do throughout these 10 weeks over the summer in order to support your child. So and figuring out the answers to the questions that you don't know the answers to, you do have a certain amount of knowledge as a parent. As you have raised your child, you have learned about them, how they've grown, how they've adapted, how they have had experiences in life, their important experiences, pivotal moments, pivotal people, pivotal experiences. All of that has helped to create your child into who they are right now, and who they hope to be as a result of getting a college education, as a result of going to college. So you're knowing, so we're talking right now about the difference between knowledge versus knowing. So you're knowing your child, your experience with your child, your parenting your child is critical in their success in college, because as a parent, you can use your experience, your expertise on your child in order to effectively guide them and support them and be proactive with them with regard to navigating challenges, overcoming obstacles, not having certain experiences that they have to learn from, or allowing them to learn from experiences. All of that is going to be important in their transition. And also what happens at this point, I was mentioning earlier, your child, your son, your daughter may be asserting their independence. Your relationship changes at the college level. Maybe not now because it's still early. They may have just graduated, or maybe they've been trying to assert their independence all throughout senior year. If you've had some experiences that I've heard from parents with regard to that college application process, them maybe wanting to do it on their own or not wanting to, follow your recommendations or things like that. Or maybe you're experiencing it now. So the change in the relationship happens. And it's normal. It's normal for these things to happen with regard to them not wanting to do what you say or listen to your guidance or advice. And so it gets even more difficult when they're away from home in college and you don't necessarily know what's going on. So one way that I have thought that we want to look at this relationship change is thinking about control, which is maybe depending on your parent style, you telling them what to do and they doing it, or the way it transitions, if it's still a healthy relationship, is it moves from control to influence. And so what happens if you think about your relationship with your parent, lessons learned, things you wish they would have done differently. What happens when we develop positive relationships and teach our children, instead of telling versus teaching, basically is what we're doing. Instead of telling them what to do, instead of telling them how to, what to major in, how to solve this problem, things like that. The goal with the influence instead of control is to show them, teach them, give them opportunities to practice how to solve the problems, how to think through the situations, how to make these important decisions. Because, like I said, when you are at home and they are away, they're going to be facing these different situations where they're not necessarily, maybe they will text you, but likely they are not, especially if they're trying to assert their independence. They want to be able to be competent young adults so that believe that they can handle things themselves. And so one of the things that we can do over these next 10 weeks is to give them opportunities to learn these different things. And so that is also a part of what we will be doing, or in the challenge, is assessing what are these skills, what are these areas that we want to focus on before they leave home, what are the questions or concerns or things that are still not solid in their foundation that we want to make sure are solid before they actually leave. So moving from telling to teaching, moving from control to influence are some of the mindset shifts that are going to be helpful as your child is, moving into from adolescence to emerging adulthood. And emerging adulthood, it's a, I guess, a human development term, happens from now, if they're 18 or so, up until they're 25. The human brain does not fully develop until the age of 25 for the most part. So although at the university level, your child may be treated as an adult, or your children may say that they're an adult, there is definitely some development that still needs to happen emotionally, physically, psychologically. All of those things are still developing. And so our role as parents is to help provide the support that's necessary, provide the guidance that's necessary, but in a format that there is going to be receptive to them, and also teaching them how to eventually be competent, successful adults, and able to reach their goals. So with that, let me get into what else did I want to cover before we actually got into the gist. The only other thing that I wanted to, actually two other things that I wanted to talk about before we actually get into the lesson for today, or the focus for today. Two things. So another one of my motivations for doing this activity, this challenge with parents, is when we have children, obviously we want them to be successful. We want to support them in any way we can. And as adults, we know how the world works. We've experienced, how the world really works. And we know that, everything is not fair and equal. Usually when you think about, the playing field is obviously not equal due to systemic racism, due to inequality, due to things like that. And so there are children who are coming in to the university who have advantages, be it their educational background, that they were able to get some better education, be it their family background, their connections. Regardless, there are definitely things that, everybody is not entering college in the same playing field. Even if the fact that you had maybe a sibling go to the same college makes the playing field uneven, because you have someone who can teach you how to go through, who to talk to, how to get answers to your questions, how to navigate things like that. So one of my goals in providing this as a training, as a challenge, as a learning opportunity for parents, is to kind of provide an opportunity to have that inside information, that expertise, that knowledge, that is not widely shared or taught anywhere else, so that the children, if you're implementing this information that you're going to learn here, you are able to have your child start off not having to figure things out and navigate through the different obstacles that may come in their way, because they haven't had this information or this knowledge or this know-how before. So that's another one of my goals. My goal is to impact lives, share information, and kind of provide a level, not even a level, just give more information that is not widely shared. I believe that the information that about beyond academic information about what it takes and how to be successful in college and in life is something that should be taught, but it's not taught. The education system in itself, has its own deficits. And so, in my role, I'm here to teach the things that are not taught about what it takes to be successful in college. Because there are definitely things that are systemic reasons why students don't graduate in 4 years, that could be changed if there was a focus on that, but there's not a focus on that. College is in itself a business, and um, the goal is, to educate people, but not everybody there has the same dedication to helping your child overcome the various obstacles that may present themselves in order to be successful. So just wanted to say that. The other thing is that the transition to college in and of itself, through research, we know can be challenging. Like the first 6 weeks of college are basically the proving grounds, because it's such a unique environment, where it's the first time students are away from home. It's the first time students are, high school. They had their friend group. They had, they had their routines. They had things like that. It's a completely different experience. They're living on their own. They're learning new things. They're trying to form friendships. They're trying to be an adult. There's so many different factors. And so that in and of itself makes the transition difficult. And then there are other factors that students may be dealing with that will also make the transition difficult. So everybody, when I was talking about that level playing field, everybody is going to have different experiences and different setbacks and different opportunities. And so the transition to college can be a rough period of time for many students. And so this is also what my goal is to make that transition a little bit easier, a little bit smoother, and creating the beginnings of a more open relationship between you and your child, where hopefully they'll be asking for you or relying on you for support if and when they need it, or uh, information or perspective or advice or guidance if and when they need it, rather than thinking that they have to figure it all out by themselves. Not asking for help is one of the biggest challenges that students face when they're in college. Not asking for help from home, not asking for help from the people at the college who are there to help them. All of those can cause a student to be at a deficit even before they actually get their first midterm grades, because they've dug their hole so deep already that by the time that they do get the help or ask for the help, it can be a little bit too late. So all of this to say that, as a parent, your role is to still continue to communicate and talk about these things. That's one of the things that we advocate. Talk about these things, which is one of the things you're going to be asked to do during this challenge. Talk about their concerns, talk about their fears, talk about what they're going to do if this happens. What if you get, a bad grade on your first paper? What if you have a problem with your roommate? Like, talk about these things. Talking to them about how to solve these problems, what they're going to do, what their strategies are going to be really important. All right, so one of the first things that we do in the challenge is I call assessment. And so when we're talking about assessment, what I'm basically referring to, an assessment basically definition is a test. And so what I am asking you to do as a parent is to assess your child, or get clear on who you raised, who do you have that you're sending off to college, and what are they going to be really good at doing when they go, and what are they going to need some support or guidance or help with when they leave for college. And so we're going to keep it very basic here. We're not going to come up with any strange assessment thing. We're just going to keep it simple, and you may have learned this in elementary school. Basically, it's any problem solving equation or situation, you come up with or you're trying to research or get information on something, you come up with the 5 whys and the 1 H. So that's what we're going to focus on. We're going to keep it really simple. The 5 W's and 1 H for your child. So for those of you who may not have grown up in the US, I know that's pretty much one of the things that's always taught in like English class or language arts class. We're talking about the who, the what, the where, the when, the why, and the H is the how. So we're going to do that basically together. And then there'll be a little worksheet that you have with the notes and specific questions for you to actually, what I want you to actually do is like write out the answers to the questions, because writing will allow us to process the information and have it like in front of us. And likely we'll be able to find some patterns, we'll be able to actually do some reflection, and identify what support, what we want to focus on in order to help that first transition to the first 6 weeks of college to be able to be successful for your child. So that is the plan. So let's get started. So like I said, this will be the homework, but if you want to take some time now and get out a pen, get out a piece of paper and go through these questions as I explain them, then I would encourage you to do that. The more opportunities for reflection, the more information you can get on the paper, you'll have more to work with, and you'll have an opportunity to use that to create your plan, which is the end result of the challenge, your plan for the next, at the end of the challenge, it'll be 8 weeks, your plan for the next 8 weeks, but you can be working on the different things that we're going to be talking about throughout the challenge. So let's get started. So who, and when I talk about who, I'm referring to what we call their origin story. And the time that they're in college, like I said, their human development does not end up until the age of 25. So the time that they spent in high school, middle school, all the things that form their identity to who they are now, up until the time that they graduate, all of that will formulate their origin story. So who they are, and as a parent, you have great insight as to who your child is, what their strengths are, what their areas that they may need to grow and develop in while they're in college or before they get to college, what their likes are, what their interests are. Who is your child? Who are they? What are they interested in? Who are they becoming? All of that is going to be important. So who your child is now, and we're talking about one of the activities that in a more in-depth training we could get into is life mapping. And this is actually what the students that I teach do. And life mapping is basically identifying those pivotal moments, those important moments, and or those important people that have formed who you are, that have influenced who you are, that have been critical to the person that you've become. What's important to you, your values, your core beliefs, all of that is going to be a part of who you are. So when we're talking about core beliefs, what's important in that regard is that your family, your cultural background, all of that influences what you believe, your beliefs about the world, your beliefs about yourself, your beliefs about your identity, all of that. So in thinking about who your child is, all of that is encompassed in there. Who is important in their lives? Who will they go to in addition to you for support, for guidance, for advice? Obviously, that's friends, family, all of that. So who is your child? Who are they? And this is an important part that happens, or important part of the development that happens when your child is in college. Being aware, self-awareness of all of these things, which is going to be critical to them making sure they pick the right career based off of who they are and their interests, knowing themselves, knowing what they are, their capacity is, knowing what their ability is, all of that. So the who is the first part. And one of the most important, they're all very important. One of the most important are who they are now, how they and how and who they want to become. And in thinking about the who, one of the things that we'll do for the homework assignment is to, in thinking about their past experiences in high school, lessons learned, mistakes made, problems or obstacles that they had to overcome. This is going to be important because if the lesson wasn't learned or the skill wasn't fully developed in high school, then it may come up again in college. For example, academically speaking, if the child had difficulties with their English class because they didn't like to write, then obviously that's going to reappear in college. And what are we thinking about as the strategies for how to overcome that in at the college level? Also knowing that at the college level, the writing is more intensive, the reading is more intensive. So who do you have? Who do you have? What are their strengths? And what are their areas for development? So that's the who. All right. And so, like I said, write what you know right now, what you can right now. And then as you have your assignment, you'll be able to go a little bit deeper and get some more evidence or examples of who they are. So after who, we go to what. And so what is going to be important because what is encompassing a lot. What's required for them to be successful? What do they have to do? What do they need to know? All of that is going to be important. So what's required is I'm talking about what's required for them, for them to be the person that they want to be. If they want to, if we're thinking about a difficult major like nursing, what's required for them that may need to change from high school? What's required with regard to their ability to organize themselves, their ability to manage their time, their ability to, if it's not an academic concern, what's required for them to be more extroverted, more outgoing, take more risks so that they can have an experience in college that they'll relish and that they're enjoying, that they'll feel that they got the most out of. So what's required? What are their goals? What specifically do they want to do? What specifically do they want to experience? What are their goals? Are they interested in being, the same level of high performance that they were in high school? Are they interested in maybe getting new experiences? If they weren't as social and they, focused only on their school, are they interested in being more social? What are their goals? What do they want? What do they desire? All of that. And then lastly, we kind of touched on this, I think, a little bit earlier. What do they need to know? What do they need to know? What do they need to be able to do? What do they need to have? That's the what. All of that is the what. What are their beliefs about their abilities? Oftentimes what comes up in college are the idea of imposter syndrome, that I'm not good enough, I don't belong, I'm not good enough. So what are their beliefs? What are their fears? That's the what. And like I said, some of this may be your perspective, which may be accurate, or it may not be. When we have students do these type of self-assessment activities, one of the things that we do is we have them do what's called a 360 assessment, which is getting perspectives from a variety of different people, friends, family, teachers. And so they have a more holistic view of what the reality is versus what their perspective on it. So that's the what. The next one is where. And when we're talking about where, obviously where denotes or is kind of referring to a location or a place. But even bigger than that, what's the environment? Where, what type of school is it? Is it a physically large school with big classes? Is it a small school with small teacher to student interaction? And based on that, is that an environment where your child will be successful, where they'll thrive, where they'll feel comfortable, will they'll feel like they belong, where they feel like they fit? Did they choose the right school? That's a good question, because sometimes the idea of and that also brings to up another thing that's not often talked about, like the idea of transferring, like if the fit, if the environment, if the actual physical location, the where isn't right, what's the plan or what's the strategy for that? If they didn't get into their dream school or their ideal school, is that going to influence their mindset and their feelings about whether they're going to be successful or not? All of that is going to be very important. So that's where where are they physically, where are they mentally, where are they emotionally? All of that is going to be important with regard to their success in college. Where do they want to go? Um, where do they want to be? All of that is going to be important. And after where, we're talking about um, also for where is uh, where can they go for support? Where can they go for help? Um, sometimes when we're far away, is there someone close by who can, is there family close by? Is there um, a plan for finding our people, finding our support systems? So that's where. And then when is referring to time, obviously, but time is much broader than like physical time. Obviously, college has this idea of the 4-year time frame, but based off of a bunch of different factors. Did your child take AP classes? Did your child already take summer classes? So where are they? I mean, where are they? When is the question? Where are they emotionally? Where are they credit wise? Where are they with regard to getting clear on their major? How close are they with regard to connecting their major to a career? All of that is going to be important. So when we're talking about when, it's more abstract than just the timing, because maturity levels are different, experience levels are different, credit levels are different. So when we're talking about timing, and for those of you who are not talking about freshmen, sophomores are still in that area of when, because oftentimes students may be good freshman year, in part because the general education requirements are okay for them to be able to successfully navigate through. They're general, they're not too difficult. They're providing a foundation, but sophomore year, when they get into their major classes, it can be a difficult transition, in part because that freshman level of support from the university is often taken away during that sophomore year. So the sophomore slump is often a thing that's considered, or you know, you didn't have to ask for help during your freshman year, so you think you're good. So when problems or struggles present themselves during sophomore year, you're kind of at a loss for what to do or where to go or things like that. And there's not necessarily proactive support available for you at the university. So when we're talking about when is all of those things? And also the importance of starting the semester strong. Oftentimes, because college is set up so that there's not a lot of opportunity for academic feedback with regard to your grades. You get usually one test or one paper, or a midterm, another paper, and maybe a final. So it's not as many opportunities for you to get feedback on how you're doing as it is at the high school level. So where are they with regard to all of those things? Where are they? And their maturity, their ability to ask for help, where are they? So after when is why. And why is the big one of the other big ones for me. It's one of my core values for myself and also for my business purpose. Why, your why, like the big why, not just why, but even the little why, like why are you in college? Um, why your major? What impact do you want to make? What experiences do you want to have? Why college? How much clarity do they have with regard to what they're going to do with their degree? How clear or how much clarity do they have with regard to what the major really entails? What do they really learn? All of that. Why did they choose their major? And some of this information may be in their college admission essay, but that could also change as they're able to actually get the actual experience in their major in their college. So these are tools. One thing to mention: these are tools and strategies that can be reused every year. These are opportunities for reflection and assessment that can be reused every year, every semester. And based off of these answers and results, you're able to get more information and make better decisions or more informed decisions about how to best support your child. So why? The big why. What's their motivation? And motivation is key in part because college is at least 4 years. So it's such a long term goal. What's going to sustain them? What's going to keep them motivated to keep going after that first semester, after that second semester, after that difficult teacher, after that difficult roommate? What's going to motivate them and sustain them to keep going, to overcome these obstacles and these challenges and these barriers to them being successful? The why is critical. I do a whole training on why, a whole training, a whole focus. And that also goes in line with their values and their purpose and their beliefs, all of that. And last but not least, which is also the foundational part of what I do in my business, is the how. How? What's the plan? What's the strategy? How are you going to get through all 4 years? What are you going to do? What's the plan? How are you going to get through? What's the plan for your life? What's the plan for your college experience? What's the plan for what you want to experience? What's the plan for what you want to do? How are you going to do it? So that's a more specific plan for how to think, how to make decisions, how to behave, how to decide on your major, how do you use the resources, how do you make those connections and networks that are important, how do you learn the skills that are needed for the job you want that they don't teach at school. The how. What's your strategy? Do you have a strategy? Are you just going because that's what you're told to do? So all of that's it. That's the 5 H's, 5 W's and 1 H. So I know we got maybe a little bit more in depth than you thought when we maybe initially started, but that's the crux of what I wanted to focus on regarding the assessment for today. And there's one more part that I wanted to talk about before we stop. And that is doing your own questioning of yourself as a parent. Because many times we have our own beliefs as parents, and our beliefs and our fears or concerns are maybe valid, and maybe some of them are not valid. They're maybe just our worries or our fears about our child and their ability to be successful, or their decisions and whether it's a good decision or a bad decision, or how it will work out for them. So another part in the assessment is to assess, and this is why we're asking such specific questions in the five W's and 1 H, is because it can help us to identify if the fears that we have are based in reality, or are they based in fear. So if we have examples of our child having past troubles or challenges, um, based off of, past experiences in school or in life, and we know that they haven't learned how to overcome, then okay, that may be a valid challenge. But if we don't have examples of they're not being able to solve problems or do hard things or, motivate themselves, then maybe our fears are unwarranted, and or maybe, we need to provide them with an opportunity to learn, from mistakes, or learn, from not being able to reach their goals. But knowing that you are there to support them to, problem solve and come up with a different strategy, another how, if they do have a stumble or a setback. So that's another part of the assessment process, assessing ourselves as parents. So that was the last thing. All right, that was a lot, I think. Um, so that is, like I said, that is today's talk. Day one is over. I want to put the celebration song back on. But no. So like I said, I will be back next week. Your job, from that time, from now until then, is to take some time, dig a little bit deeper in these questions, write out your answers, identify, what's on the page, who do you have, and doing some assessment as to the picture that you painted. Is it reality? If you have a partner or another parent who's involved, have both of you do it and have a discussion about your thoughts. If you aren't sure about a question, ask your child. Is this accurate? Is this true? This is what I think. Start the conversations. There's a great, I think I talked about it before. I don't have it with me. There's a great resource. I'll put it in, I'll link it. It's called Talking College, and it's a bunch of questions or prompts or topics that you can talk to your child about before they actually go off to college. The person who created it said, based off of her research, these are things that parents and students wish they had talked about before they actually sent their child off to college. We recommend it in the session that we do with parents. But it's a great opportunity to have discussions about your expectations, their expectations, and to kind of get on the same page before the actual situation arises, and to have some preemptive or proactive discussions. So that is, I think, the last thing that I wanted to share. So just a reminder, our next challenge day will be next week, same time, same station. And if you have not already joined the group, College Momentum, it's an opportunity if you weren't able to join live to watch replays or to watch it again. If you want another opportunity to listen and actually do the homework together. And it'll be available all summer. I'll take it off at the end of the summer probably. And then we will have 3 weeks of information, of resources, of questions, of answers. If you do have a question about something that I've asked and talked about, or an idea, or you agree or you disagree vehemently about something, definitely let me know. Would love to have the conversation. And until next time, day one is down, and I will talk to you next time. Thanks for watching. Bye.